Hello, welcome to American Christian or Christian American. I'm Sean Wesley Legacy and I'm your host. If this is your first time, I invite you to go back to my earlier videos to get a context. As I establish some of the really important factors, especially in the first video and the following videos. But if you don't want to watch all the first videos, try to watch the first one. Now, my first video last year in April. It's not as polished, but it still gives you some really important information, and I would suggest that you go back and look at it. Also, if you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel. Being a subscriber doesn't cost you anything. If a channel asks you to join, many times there is cost attributed to that. But subscription only has you connect to the channel, and it promotes the channel also to help it to grow. Also, if you like a video, would you please push that like on the video? It helps the algorithm with YouTube to spread it out further. And now, without further ado, let's get into today. So we're talking about the Constitution and that phrase, "we the people of the United States." Who were they talking about? Well, let's see. The Constitution disregards Native Americans. It also calls enslaved people 3/5 of a person. So who was it talking about? When it said "we the people of the United States," in other words, without saying it, they were saying "we the white people of the United States." No, it doesn't say that. Yes, it does. It doesn't have to say the word white because they exclude other types of people. In other words, white people or Caucasian people, but they refer to themselves as white people and do today. I prefer the term Caucasian because whiteness has to do with a philosophy of whiteness, which is mixed up, messed up, and tied up with white supremacy. So, we the people of the United States, see, they didn't consider other people to be fully human. Hence, slaves, Africans, were 3/5 of a person. They did not account as slaves. We looked at a video recently, or past few months, that a man talked about what did they consider black people back then. And the interviewer was an African American man. He says, "Well, we kind of looked at you as superior pets." So see, the attitude towards black people was that they were inferior. Native Americans certainly were inferior. How else could they steal their land from them and murder them and justify it? So when the Constitution was written, it was a document meant to establish a pure white nation. Nothing else. But even beyond that, was it a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, which is what is quoted in the Gettysburg Address. A government established for the people, by the people. Who are the people? Well, one way we can say that who the people are those people who participate in the electoral process of this nation. Meaning, those who go out and vote are the people, or it is a government of those people. If you don't participate in it, or you're not allowed to participate in it, the government is not of you, and it's certainly not for you. So let's look at that a little farther. We know that things have changed over the years, that things have improved because we've added different things to the Constitution through the amendment process. So even though the Constitution was not set up for all people, we have adjusted it. One, to include women. Another, to include African Americans in this country and other people. But that's not what this country established. And that's not what it still has many flaws to it, or intentional flaws, to keep it under the control of white people. So if I have your doubts, let's look at some things. First of all, it wasn't for all white people either. Right off the bat, it was established for men. Now, the term men can be used as the human race. That's true. But that's not what this was talking about. This was about white men, because women could not vote. So right there, we understand the term was not being used as mankind. It was being used as the gender male. Also, let's look at the branches of government. Were they elected by the people? No. The senators were elected by the state legislatures. But you say, what, the states were elected by the people? Okay. Or were they? Because we're going to get into that. We're going to come back to that. The president was elected and still is, in generally, elected by electors that are established through the Electoral College by each state. Now, at first, many of the original states did not have the popular vote at all. So you say, well, you vote, everybody votes for the president, and then the electors just cast a vote according to who wins the majority of popular votes. Yes, we do that today. But that's not how it was originally established. It was established, the power was completely in the form of the legislature. So the people were out of it. Now, some states did have the popular vote, but there was also no guarantee that the electors would be faithful. This maintained power in many of the legislature's hands. That changed later on, after 1865, around that period. I don't remember the exact date on that one. But, so the president was elected by certain people, not all the people, and certainly not even all the white people of the state. The president or the Senate were not done that way. But we have the House of Representatives. That was elected by the people. Was it? It was elected by white male landowners. So not only did you have to be white, not only did you have to be male, but you had to own property. Now, what we fail to understand, because we look through these eyes, the eyes of the current time, we have to think back then. Who were the people that came to this country? Poor people. The people that left Europe, for the most part, were poor people that were treated terrible in Europe. They had nothing. They were discriminated against. Many were indentured servants. And so they were the people that Europe didn't want. The garbage, so to speak. That's who founded this country, the people who were considered garbage. Now, I'm not saying they were garbage, but I'm saying they were considered garbage. They left Europe to come here for possibly a better life. So, but when they came here, there was still a problem, because some who came here, perhaps some were better off in Europe, perhaps not, but there became affluent people, people who owned property. And many times, those people, or almost all the time, the people who were affluent either were slave masters or they were benefiting from the profits made from slavery. Like citizens in New York City were making a great deal of money from the slave trade, even though they didn't actually own slaves. But they were profiting from the companies in the South and the plantations in the South that were producing products that they helped sell overseas and forming large conglomerate corporations. Back then, there wasn't as many different things to make. So people were either the bosses or they were the they grew crops, they were farmers, they waited on people, they sold things, making little profits. Even before unions, Companies could pay people whatever they wanted to and work them like dogs. So was the government for those people? No. It was again for white male landowners who were affluent, meaning they had money, they had status, they were the rich and powerful. And yes, there were different degrees of it. But if you owned land, you actually could own land. Now, we're not talking about the settlers who went farther out west and claimed land, but even that was a problem. But if you owned property at that time, you had some money and clout. And here's the thing. If you owned the property and you were affluent, your mindset was along the same mindset as other people. So when we talk about a democracy, did we have a democracy? Well, they could vote, but they all thought alike. They kept them, they created a democracy where the people who could vote would be in the same mindset as vote, to maintain the status quo, to maintain the power structure. So how did we get changes? By protests, by people standing up and insisting on their rights. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into those protests in forcefulness to put pressure on the people who had the power to include them. And it wasn't easy. You're talking about unions, you're talking about women's rights, all kinds of things that had to put the pressure on these people to relinquish some of their power. So the Constitution was not established as a free nation for everybody. It was established for a nation of freedom within the same type of mentality and thought. All the other people were just peasants, even though we don't have a king. That's what they were. So now, later on, it passed and changed that the state senators were elected, or the senators for the Congress were elected by the people. Other states developed the popular vote, but we still have this electoral college that can do to sway things. Did that make things better? Well, it made things better, but we still have something even we have today, gerrymandering, meaning that the party that's in control of the state can set the boundaries where the districts are for voting. And so if Republicans are in control, or the Democrats, that particular party can move things around so it favors their party. Is that a free country? Is that democracy? No, it's the same thing as white males who own property can vote. It's channeling the way they want this so-called free country to have the power to vote. They're trying to put it in the hands or favor the people who will vote to secure what they want, what they higher up, the corporations, and that want to. Every move in this country has been done to try to increase that power. What has channeled it the other direction as the protest. But we still have gerrymandering. Under the age of Donald Trump, we still have him trying to get more seats. Other things, while you say certain things happen on the state level, but remember where the state has power and influences the federal government, or at least did back then. What about prisons? Where are prisons generally located? Are they located in the cities, in the metro areas, or should I say the center of the city? No. Who's located in the center of the city most of the time? The poorer, more non-white populations, and where white populations have more fled to the suburbs. So prisons are established either in suburbs or in some rural community that is outside of the metro areas and placed there. So what's the significance of that? Do you know that those who are in prison, that becomes their permanent address? So when the census comes along, they're counted as citizens of that particular area. And while the prisons may be populated heavily with non-whites because our system is corrupt and puts people in prison for unequal punishments, meaning whites get off much easier and much less time, where African Americans are put in there for lesser crimes, for longer sentences. This is historical. This is documented, everything. But they can't vote. But yet they're counted for the population of the area. So you now have a population increase in the area, but part of the citizens can't vote for their own interests. So that means it gives more power to what is usually predominantly white populations who might have the same mindset to support a particular agenda. So again, we have a country that is not established for the people, by the people, because the government that's for the people is those who participate in the electoral process or who are allowed to participate in the electoral process. I've said for several years now that we should have a new constitution because it was never established for the people who live in this country. Because African Americans, they bought their rights to citizenship in this country by their free labor. If you didn't want them to have citizenship, you should have never brought them here to be enslaved by you and to take advantage of free labor, because they have earned their right to be here. So have others who have participated in building this country. This country wouldn't even be the same today, wouldn't even have the same wealth today if it wasn't for enslaved labor or those who were taken advantage of. So those people have invested themselves in this country, whether it was by force or freedom. So they have a right to be here. We need a new constitution that represents all the people who have invested in this country. We can still use the Constitution because the other part, can we actually elect people in this country in opposition to those people who have power if under this Constitution? And the answer is yes. But it would take us to mobilize in strong ways and be consistent to do that. So we have a problem in a couple of different areas. One, we have too much corruption, not just in the Republican Party. The Republican Party are the descendants of those people who were the enslavers and everything else. They used to be called the Democrats. Then there was a slight turn towards Dixiecrats, didn't last long, and then more Democrats. The shift began more around FDR, when FDR started developing programs, and he had to get the support of the Southern Democrats in order to maintain his programs, because they were the heaviest racist people. Now, as more things came from the Democratic Party of equality, more people started shifting more and more towards the Republican Party. But now you have the Republican Party made up of those purely racist, dehumanizing, degrading, power-hungry, wealthy people that were from the beginning. It hasn't changed. Does that mean the Democrats are the party of hope? Yes and no. There has also been way too much corruption within the Democratic Party, being paid off by corporations. They may have a little different side of the coin or the same different side of the picnic basket, but they're in the same basket. All of them? No. There have been some Democrats who have fought for people and have not taken money, and there are more and more of them. They're called progressives. They don't take money from corporations or filthy rich people to support their campaigns. They take it from individuals. Now, there might be some rich people who give money to their campaigns, but the idea is they're actually trying to do what's for the people. So if we, one, look at who we're supporting, and two, we get out there and vote and be consistent, we can overcome the differences. See, one of the big tools they have beyond all the other things that they do is they have the tool of discouragement. I can't make a difference. It's just me. It's going to be the same anyway. And when you believe those things, you have literally, whether you're white or black or anything else, you have made yourself into a type of mental slave. And you have done just what they want you to do. The only way we can secure a difference is when we take part of the political process. And beyond that, we stand up, we protest, we put pressure on them, we let them know we know what they're doing. Many Republicans today, vote on certain issues to hurt certain people. But the agenda is going to hurt them too, like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, other things. A lot of Republicans depend on these things as well. You see, the affluent biggest tool, the most powerful people, is to get middle class to poor white people to hate black people and others, so they don't pay attention that the rich and powerful are degrading them as well. The middle class is deteriorating in the country because we have given more and more power to people who could care less about you. They only care about themselves, and the rich and powerful who pamper them and who fill their pockets. We have to understand this country was never established for anybody but the super rich, the affluent and powerful white person, especially white men, but in general, white people. We have to try to reestablish a country, whether we get rid of this Constitution, get a new one or not, so it's for all people. That's what we have to do. Now, we can do it under this Constitution to a point, but there will always be issues and always be dangers. But if we develop a new Constitution, not that it would be perfect, because no human document will be perfect, but being more specific on the different things that we do and defining that all people have rights, then we can establish a nation that is better managed. I believe in a parliamentary system. Not to say exactly the way certain European countries do it, but pretty close. But there are some differences I would do. But even with a presidential system, if you redefine the roles and the rights of voting and all these other things, you can have a better country. I'm not like saying abandon the Constitution, because we have to have some ground for the rule of law, and because we take the words at their base value without the hidden meanings, it does establish rights for people today. But we need to establish a better Constitution. So what am I saying? I'm saying we develop a Constitution and we vote on it, and the majority accept it, it replaces the old one. We don't just abandon the old Constitution until we have a replacement that will replace it. Now, I don't know if I'll see that in my lifetime. Probably not. I still think it's the way we need to go. But right now, we need to start standing together and realize that we are all together. That God made every single one of us. That we are all human beings, all worth something. And while you may have different religious beliefs on certain things that what people believe and do, that's okay. Because you should have the freedom of religion. But realize that not all citizens in the country are following God. And God gave them the right to choose to do other things. Even if what you believe is that they will be lost or they're rebelling against God, that's a choice. So as a Christian, you can promote things within the church that this is what's right. And if people outside of the church who don't want to follow God want to do different, within the United States, they should have certain inalienable rights to choose that, because God gave them certain rights to choose that. We have to do different. But until we realize who and what and who for this Constitution was written, until we know the truth about history and are willing to talk about it, nothing will really change. Until we stop trying to put a different suit on a body that is dead and going to do nothing, we have to first look at who we're putting the suit on. Make sure that person is a person who is going to get something done. We have to acknowledge history and stop running away from it. We as Caucasian people or white people need to look at the truth. Not worry about white guilt, okay? Yes, it's important to be a little guilty over it, but not really. Don't look at necessarily what the past is. What are you doing? And what can you do? If you can acknowledge it was wrong in the past, then you can make a change for the future. But too many white people are comfortable and don't care enough for other people, and so they're just going to put their hands up and say, that was in the past. And start saying insulting things like, what are you crying over? Because it's all over with. Because it's not. This country is continuously to do harm to people in this world. We need to change. We need to be a better country, a better world, better citizens, better human beings. Until the next time on American Christian or Christian American.